Okay, I know, it's acting. It's the magic of the movies. It's not real life. But I have talked to actors on some occasions who've said, like, for example, I really get depressed when I know I've got to do a death scene tomorrow. It really bums me out. I know it's a movie and it's just going to be a squib or anything. And, for example, a case like Brooklyn's Finest. Now, I get the impression you and Vincent D'Onofrio are pals, or at least...
We met on the Newton Boys, thanks to Richard McClellan.
Yeah. And I hate to toss out a spoiler, but it's the opening scene.
Yeah, spoil.
You pull out a gun, you shoot him in the face.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying the character didn't deserve it. I'm not being judgmental here. Yeah. But when you're going to do a scene where you're going to, wreak havoc on another character, and it's a friend or whatever, does that ever enter into your mind, like, I really wish I weren't going to shoot my buddy tomorrow? I know it's a movie, but...
in truth, I'm haunted by that. I think Rick was there. I was at the Cannes Film Festival once about 10 years ago, and Roger Ebert, who is, really actually, like yourself, a very knowledgeable, tremendous critic, and a very serious thinker. And unbeknownst to me, at a party, he gave me a toast as the only famous actor in Hollywood who had never killed anybody. And on film, obviously.
And then we go to those that later.
I remember Rick and I getting a conversation, and I was really kind of proud of that. And I was saying that actually he's wrong. In A Midnight Clear, I did actually shoot some people in the war film, but it was a very peaceful movie. And Roger Ebert went on to say how impossible it is as a male actor to have any level of serious success in the medium without killing lots of people. And if you read like Cassavetes interviews and stuff like that, he struggled a lot with his most famous performance in The Dirty Dozen, which is he felt at the end of his life pretty humiliated by that movie whenever people talked about it because of the nature of violence. And it is, I'm tormented by it in a way because on one level, I feel like look at Julius Caesar, the play. It's a magnificent work of art. The Henrys, all these, a lot of the greatest works of art and theater and movies have death all over it. And death is a part of life, and murder is a part of life. But it is true that these movies glamorize it, and it starts to make you sick to your stomach as a parent and as somebody who watches the news. And I like that movie, Brooklyn's Finest, because I think each one of those stories is a little Bible story, and it actually deals with the, that murder is at the beginning of, that's my first scene in that movie, and you watch what happens to that man's life after he does something like that, and there's something, I like that movie about it, but it's very hard in this, to have a real career in the movies and not commit lots of heinous crimes.
Well, now, we've talked about your theater work, your film work. Now, you are an acclaimed author as well, 2 novels to your credit. And I wonder sometimes why people who are successful in one area want to branch out into other areas. And I'm sure everybody has a different reason. But I would think a common reason would be there's something about this other area, there's something about this other medium that you can do things in that you can't do. And this is just out of the blue. This is from Ethan's book, Ash Wednesday. And I'm not going to read a whole chapter. So. But this is an observation. It's a character. She moved back to the sink, turned both faucets on, and let the water swirl together. She looked worn out. I perceived in her eyes and in her gestures that, yes, she cared about me. She would cry about me. But in the end, she could and would get over me. Somehow, I hadn't realized that. And that...
No, go on.
No, I'm just saying that's something you can't do as an actor, either on stage or in a movie, that observation and then that little button, unless you're going to do a movie where you're doing that voiceover narration.
For me, I don't know. I have the same exact reaction. Like when I hear that, so-and-so's writing a book of poetry, or such and such is a great musician, is going to act in this great movie, or whatever. I have the same reaction that a lot of people have when they hear that I've written a book. Like, you just want to roll your eyes and puke. I understand. I understand all that. I don't know why I do that exactly, why I did that, except for me, I feel our whole culture is way too specified, and we're boxed in and defined by our profession in ways that are destructive to us living the greatest life we possibly could. And I really, in truth, when I found out about these auditions for Dead Poets Society when I was at Carnegie Mellon, and I really was torn. I really loved writing. I kind of wanted to be Jack London, and I kind of wanted to be Jack Nicholson. I just want to be somebody named Jack.
You worked with Jack London.
And so I wasn't sure, like a lot of young people, I just was drawn to the arts. I would have been a musician if somebody showed me how to do that, or I just liked the arts. And I heard about this script, and I got a hold of this script via my experience with the Explorers. I knew some people, and I got a hold of the script for Dead Poets Society. And I called my stepsister, and I said, "Look, there's 7 parts for young guys. I'm going to go to New York." I was in Pittsburgh, and I'm going to audition for this thing. And if I get it, I'm going to be an actor. And if I don't, I'm going to go to Merchant Marines, and I'm going to be a writer. It's the way 18-year-olds think, and that's the way I thought. And so I did it. And I got a call back, and I got a call back, and I got this part in this movie. And it seemed a little too whimsical for fate to decide that that's just what I am then. And for me at 18, because that movie is successful, decide that I can't write. And I remember that when I was on Before Sunrise, Rick really encouraged Julie and I to open up and contribute to the movie. And, well, you write. How would your character say that? And really, it's no coincidence that Julie and I both went on to write and direct and do other things. Rick was a wonderful teacher. He's somebody of our generation who was doing it, but he doesn't have that thing of trying to control and put other people down. The best directors I've worked with are all about empowering other people to do their best. Julie and I both walked away from that experience feeling empowered. And I remember in one review of Before Sunrise, they talked about how Linklater really displayed his brilliance on this one moment. It was mine. That was my freaking idea. And I knew it. And I remember thinking, well, shit, I can do that. And it's tough, the world, lots of people. Anyway, I love to do it, and that's why I did it.
A couple more questions, and I want to open it up to the audience here. I was working on a piece for Culture Map on your films, and I wanted to throw out a net and get 10, not only the most famous films, but films of yours that I appreciated your performance, I appreciated the film itself. And I hesitate to mention this title because, it may get you on an anti-Brit rant again, but Waterland.
Yeah.
You're working opposite
Jeremy Irons.
Right. And the idea that I can only think someone who's done as many films as plays and whatever, that you must get approached every so often with a compliment for something that you've almost forgotten about, that maybe you didn't even particularly like or you didn't think was particularly successful. What are some of the things that you're surprised by when people come up to you and talk about certain things?
Gosh.
What'd you say? By this question.
It's a hard question to answer because, on one level, anything that didn't do well commercially surprised. Somebody comes up to me and said, "Hey, I'm really interested in what were you kids doing on that weird bus in Waterland, I would think, whoa, who are you? But the thing that most surprises me in truth is when people talk to me about a theater performance, because it means that we were once in the same room together. See, when somebody says, I saw you in Training Day, well, you know, they could have seen it in the hospital room, they could have seen it when it came out opening weekend, they could have watched it at their mother's house on Thanksgiving. I mean, I have kind of no connection to it. But if somebody came up to me and said, hey, I saw you in The Seagull, or I saw you in Henry IV, I think, oh, what night did you see it? You know, and I'll have various different thoughts. Did I have a lot of acne then? Because, you know,
have you ever frozen on stage?
Completely, yeah. Well, all the time.
As bad as Rick Perry?
I wasn't running for president of the United States. And no. You learn to cover, you know. One of these times, the funny thing about it is that the one time I froze the worst was I was doing this, it sounds crazy, but this 9-hour play. Tom Stoppard wrote this play, The Coast of Utopia, and about 7 or 9 times we did the whole thing. On Sunday, people would come in at 11:30, and it wouldn't finish till 11, which is how some people are feeling how long this Q&A is. Anyway, and there in my last scene, all of a sudden I was doing the scene, and I started thinking about how it was going to be the last time I was going to do it. My brain just kind of, you know how you can just float above yourself? And I was talking, and then I couldn't remember where. I knew my lines, but I didn't remember where in the speech I was. And all of a sudden, any line I said, I felt like, oh wait, I already said that. And I felt so perplexed. And I actually looked out in the audience, and the director was there, because he hadn't been there in a while. He was there, and in the middle of this 1,500 people, I made eye contact with him. He was like, and I didn't know what to do. And I remember I screamed, because I knew I hadn't done that. You know? So I just kind of screamed, and then I started from the beginning and did it, and everybody thought it was brilliant.
So whenever someone comes up to you and says, I really liked you in
I just scream.
Utopia, you go, oh, you didn't.
Yeah, exactly. Did I scream?
Okay. Questions?